In this video, I'm going to show you my latest mini ITX gaming PC that you could actually afford to build. But before that, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe down below, and thank you for watching. Now, what we have here is a budget mini ITX gaming PC build consistent with a bunch of older hardware. So before I go on with this video, I really appreciate it, guys, if you go ahead and hit the like button down below. It really helps to grow the channel, and I appreciate it very much. Also, if you're new here, do consider subscribing, as I have a lot of videos to watch. So without further ado, let's take a closer look inside. Now, by today's standard, this budget build does consist with some pretty old parts, but nevertheless, it is still performs quite well in 2021. So first, I'm going to go over the parts that I use for this build, and then I'm going to jump into some gaming test benchmarks and see how well it does. So let's begin. First thing is the case, which is the Silverstone Sugo Series SG13 White Edition. This is a pretty old case. I believe it came out in 2013 or so, and in my opinion, it looks great. Very simple, and it has good ventilation on all the sides. And pretty spacious. As you could see, I still have plenty of airflow space there in the front. Also comes with a 120mm fan. Now, I swapped it out for a fractal design 120mm fan, which is white, just to give it a nicer look. The airflow, I think, is pretty decent for this thing, and very happy overall with this case and the way it looks. Next, I'm going to jump into the platform, which is the i7-4770. Still a great processor in my opinion, and more than enough to run any of the modern games, along with the Asus H81i Plus Mini ITX board, and I'm very happy with it. I really got it for a good deal, and I'm sure you're well aware when it comes to these Mini ITX builds that the motherboards could be quite pricey. But because of its age, I was able to snag this thing up for only 50 bucks on eBay, and I'm very happy with its performance. It has what I need, which is the front USB 3.0 connection, as well as a few USB 3.0 connections in the back. Supports up to 16 gigs of DDR3 RAM, up to 1600 megahertz. Plenty for modern games. I'm telling you, 16 gigs is more than enough. Don't let anyone tell you something else. And as far as cooling, because of this case clearance, I am using just a stock Intel CPU cooler. Actually, an older one that I found. I did try to use the newer ones, but they don't have the copper center part to it. And I discovered that the older ones with the copper tend to cool it a little bit better. So that's what I'm using. Because of the clearance, I did want to have at least an inch or so clearance above because of the power supply. Now, what happens is if you get a higher cooler and it's really close to the power supply, then you're really not getting any airflow, and there's going to be some cooling issues, that's for sure. But so far, it's been running pretty good, and I'm happy with the way it is. Of course, you could get like a really low profile CPU cooler. That's up to you, but I am on a budget, and as long as the temperatures are good or within reason, then I'm happy. Okay, next I'm going to jump into the power supply. Now, this sucker is pretty old too. It's an older Dell XPS power supply, 465 watt, 80 plus rated. So this came from a gaming computer basically. It does actually have a 6-pin power connection for the graphics card, and it's perfect because the graphics card I'm using is a EVGA GTX 1060 3GB SC version, and that's what it needs, a 6-pin connection. And also, what's great about this power supply, the wires are really short, and there's really nothing extra. There's no Molex or anything, so you have just a few wires for the SATA. You know, you have your 24-pin connection, 4-pin connection for the motherboard, because this motherboard only requires a 4-pin connection, which is great. And that's why the wiring is really not that crazy, and you don't have to really hide in much of the stuff to get good airflow, unless you're going to spend some more money on a nice modular power supply. That's really up to you, but I'm really keeping this within a reasonable price, just picking up some old parts that I have laying around. Okay, so next what I have here is for the RAM is 16 gigs of DDR3 RAM running at 1600 megahertz, which is the Corsair Vengeance. Pretty good for this build. Pretty much the maximum you could do with it. And it performs quite well. I'm really surprised how well this thing came out. For the hard drives, I have a 240 gigabyte SSD drive, and for the secondary I have a 2.5 inch laptop size 500 gigabyte one for the, you know, put some extra games on it. So for this build you can only use 2.5 inch drives, and also of course if you have a more modern mini ITX build you could put some M.2s, but this one does not support, of course, it's pretty old. You actually have one more additional space to put in a drive on the bottom there, right in the front where the fan is, for a third drive. So there is quite a bit of options here. But overall, I think I'm very happy with the way this came out, and the airflow is pretty decent, and it runs quite well. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the build. So all there is left to do is see how well it performs in some of the newer games. So stay tuned for that. So the first game I'm going to test here is Assassin's Creed Valhalla. It seems to be running pretty good with this old setup. Let's take a look at the settings. We're on 1080p full screen, and I have it set up on low settings. And as you could see, we're right at the 3 gig threshold. But you could definitely run this game on medium settings, no problem, with decent FPS. There you go. As you could see, it performs quite well. Again, this is 1080p, full resolution, full scale, 100%. And the game still looks good even on low settings, and like I said, you could easily go up to medium if you want a little bit better graphics. This game runs really good. Alright, so as you can see, this game runs very smooth, no issues at all. Let's see what else I got. And here we have Cyberpunk 2077, definitely one of the hardest games to run nowadays. Let's take a look what we got. So what we have here is 1080p full screen, and on the lowest preset with full scale resolution. And this is what you got here. Not bad. Considering how hard this game runs, I think this is pretty decent FPS. And even on the lowest preset at 1080p full scale, the game looks really nice. Now you could run this on medium setting with this setup, no problem. You're gonna be, you know, in the low 30s. Really depends on your taste, but overall I think graphics to performance, lowest settings would be the best way to go here. Definitely quite playable, that's for sure. Now if you do a little overclocking, you get a couple extra FPS. Really, the sky is the limit.
Hello?
Come in. Come in. Ah.
I need your help.
What?
And that's it for this game. Alright, so finally the last game I want to test is Resident Evil Village. And it seems like it's doing pretty good with the setup here. Let's take a look at the settings. Full screen 1080p. And we are on normal rendering. And pretty much on medium preset here. Take a look, everything is medium. And we are a full gig above the threshold, but that's no problem. The game still runs smooth. Good detail, and you could probably tweak it a little bit higher. The game looks good, runs smooth. You know, you want to be at that 60 FPS, and this setup will give it to you with this game, absolutely. And Resident Evil Village definitely one of the easier games to run. So is the previous ones, and I really like that, how they make it very GPU friendly. So let me know what you guys think. What do you think about my budget build here? Leave some comments down below. Let me know what you have. Any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. And I'll see you guys in another video. Goodbye.
There. It's like I said to your mom. That book's too scary for you. Almost there, honey. There you go, sweetheart. Don't you worry. I'll be right downstairs. Daddy won't let those weird fairy tale monsters get you.